Hi, this is Cal Ripken Jr., and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter back with you all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, and more. Go ahead and download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. We're brought to you by Rosie's Corner, Liverpool Physical Therapy, Axe Exotic Pets, and our great friend Heather Saxton at Hunt Real Estate. Look, buying and selling homes, it is a nightmare. Stressful, time-consuming, you name it. And home is more than just a place, it's a feeling. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to make the wrong move. Well, I'm giving you a chance here to make the right move in hiring Heather Saxton as your real estate agent. Give her a call today, 315-727-3313. That's 315-727-3313. Heather Saxton of Hunt Real Estate is a licensed real estate salesperson, the official real estate agent of the ML Sports Platter. So we are at the break of the Major League Baseball season. We're at the All-Star break here as we record this. And I just wanted to kind of go around the league a little bit as far as first half takeaways, a first half sort of recap. And, I'm going to start right in the NL West. Actually, first of all, individual performances. Let's start with that. I mean, Shohei Ohtani was the first half number one storyline, in my opinion. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, when you think about the numbers that he put up, you think about him pitching, you think about him hitting. It's just, it's absurd what he's done. And a lot of people are like, oh, we haven't seen this since Babe Ruth and this and that, but maybe we haven't seen this at all, right? Like maybe we haven't seen this, period. Right now, he's the front runner for the MVP. I mean, that's all there is to it. There is no other choice. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. Is next in line, but he's not pitching every fifth day. You're talking about 33 homers. You're talking about 84 hits. You're talking 70 RBI. You're talking a 279 batting average. His OPS is over 1,000. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And then, he's 4-1 pitching with a 3.49 ERA. It's mind-blowing. The only problem with Shohei Ohtani is it's the same thing with Mike Trout, right? And that is that here's this great player, and trust me, I really hope that he stays healthy because I hope we can see this for a few more years. I worry about him, burning out, so to speak. So I really hope he stays healthy. I really hope we have a few years left to watch this. I mean, what I would give and what everybody would give for 5 to 7 more years of this, right? But I don't know if he'll hold up that long. But I can tell you that right now he is, the MVP of the league, in my opinion. And Vlad Guerrero Jr., look, he's hit well over 330 for the majority of the year. He's got the homers. He's got the RBI. He's clearly the best hitter on the team. You have to work around Vladdy in that lineup, right? I mean, he basically, everything goes around him when he starts hitting, when he's doing it. The lineup is completely different. But, again, Shohei, I think you got to start off there. And then, I trickle into the NL West because that's really where the best baseball has been played by not two teams, right? We had the Dodgers and the Padres going into this season as the two clubs that we're going to duke it out for supremacy in that division. And surprise, surprise, welcome to the party, San Francisco Giants. The Giants with their complete roster. I mean, just complete from pitching to bullpen to timely hitting. They have been really, really, really good. And I give them a lot of credit. I really do because, you go into this year, you kind of didn't know what you had. How long can you keep going with this cast of guys who have won World Series, right? They're winners. Like, do you blow it up? Are you trying to stay loyal? They've done it with some guys being injured as well at times. Evan Longoria, among others. But, for the most part, it's been a remarkable remarkable year so far for the Giants. I mean, they've gotten pitching out of Alex Wood. They've gotten pitching out of Desclafani. They got a great outing again at Kevin Gausman on Sunday this past week. So they've really gotten the arms to come through. And certainly, we know that the hitting has been really good, really spectacular. And look, those championship guys, those championship guys night in and night out have been doing it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I mean, Crawford comes every night. Seems to get a big hit. Had 3 hits on Sunday against the Nationals. Buster Posey every night, right? And then you mix it in there with the Wades and the Yastrzemskis and the Floreses and the Dickersons and the Giants have been a nice story. They've been really something. They played the game the right way too. I mean, you hope that we're getting the game back slowly but surely, maybe with some new some new ideas to challenge the analytics. I guess new ideas would be just bringing back the old ideas, hitting and running and bunting and beating the shift and stealing bases and all that sort of thing. But Gabe Kapler went in there, and am I a huge manager guy? Sometimes. I'm more like Mark Feinsand though of MLB.com, who doesn't go wild one way or the other in terms of a manager. Sometimes the manager clicks. You fire Billy Martin, hire Bob Lemon, you hire Jack McKeon for the Marlins, right? Some of those stories in situations, okay. But for the most part, I don't think Gabe Kapler is the reason why the Giants are winning. I think all the players are really overachieving. And I think it's been a heck of a year, a heck of an NL West party, so to speak, out that way. The Dodgers, I mean, goodness gracious, they can score 20-plus runs one night. They can beat you 4-2 the next night. They can beat you 8-2 the next, 2-1 the next. I mean, they're really good. The Padres are tremendous as well, but they're 6 games out of first place. They're 4 behind the Dodgers, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. The other 2 teams, Colorado, I think, look, hosting the All-Star game this week, and you got a situation there where I think they're just biding some time. Will they be in wild card contention, right? Because if they're in wild card contention, do they keep Trevor Story? If they're not, do they trade Trevor Story? Yes, right, on both of those probably. And Arizona is just an absolute circus. They should just blow up the whole thing. The NL Central, the Brewers are the one. There's 2 teams in baseball I think that could run away with their respective divisions. One of them is Milwaukee. The other one resides in the AL, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they're 4 up on the Reds, 8 better than the Cubs and Cardinals, and 18 better than the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I really like this Brewers team. I mean, I think they could go toe-to-toe with the Padres or Dodgers or Giants in a 7-game series from the standpoint that they've got pitching. They can throw out Peralta, they can throw out Woodruff, they can throw out Burns. They can throw out a bunch of guys. Every single night they have a guy who gives them a chance to win on the mound. And that's what I really like about them. And then what their team is all about. I mean, this is a team that hits for average and power for the most part. They have gotten tremendous play. I mean, tremendous play out of Willie Adames at shortstop. They've gotten a great year so far out of Narvaez, the catcher. Colton Wong's been really good. We know that he's been a veteran in this league forever, second baseman. Despite the fact that he struggled at the plate with a brutal batting average, Jackie Bradley Jr. still provides some fielding plays that absolutely make your jaw drop. Avisel Garcia in right field has been a nice spot for them. You'd like to get Yelich all the way healthy for good, instead of knick-knack injuries and all the rest. But Milwaukee's a really good team. And Milwaukee, they do have their moments where they just disappear. The bullpen really good, by the way. Sub 150 ERA for Josh Hader, along with, a cool 63 strikeouts. He's a beast, and they've just got a lot of arms coming at you, lefties, righties, etc. The Brewers are a nice complete team. I'm interested to see the Cubs at the deadline. That 2016 team, will they sell? Will they keep? Will they? I mean, you got Chris Bryant, you got Baez, you got Rizzo, you got pieces from that team 5 years ago that helped make history. if they fall way, way, way down, I mean, you just move them all and just get pieces and revamp the farm system and start over. If the Cubs front office would commit financially and you get that farm system back a little bit, I think you could do some things there. The Cardinals, not really worried about them. I picked them to win the division, but they just don't seem to have it. They're missing their ace. You've got Arenado and Goldschmidt are fantastic, but they just don't have a lot of depth and versatility on that team. NL East, I think, is pretty wide open. I mean, the Mets lead it with 3.5 games ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies, but that's just a mediocre division. The Nationals have shown nothing this year so far. The Marlins are 11 games under 500. The Braves lose Acuna Jr. a few days back, which was just devastating. I saw that on Twitter. I was so upset to see that because he's one of the top probably 5 players in Major League Baseball. If you're a baseball fan, you like to see the dynamic best players, and he is, in fact, one of those. And then you've got, obviously, the Phillies, again, around 500. They just, Bryce Harper's played well. They get players. They're a splash team. That's what I like to call them. They come at you. They look like world beaters when you flip them out. I haven't seen the Phillies on a while. So you flip over to MLB Network and you watch them for 2 innings. And you're like, man, this team looks like a pennant winner. And then you check them out the next 5 days and they look like one of the worst teams in the game. The Mets, I'm not sold across the board on them yet as a World Series contender. I am sold that they are the division frontrunner, up 3.5, sure, but for the long haul because they have the best pitcher in Jacob deGrom. Their offense has been clicking recently. You got Pete Alonso. You got a couple of guys who can just tear you apart in the offense. And, bullpen, here, there. I think the bullpen, I think they always need another arm in that bullpen. I don't care what anybody says. But the Mets, by default of the division, and I think them at least improving a little bit in the DeGrom factor, you'd have to pick them at this point to hold on to win that division. The AL West, the Houston Astros leading the way. I'll get to the rest of that and the American League here in a second. But we are brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College. For every end in life, Bryant and Stratton College. What a terrific place to be right now with athletics and academics and excellence. They have a new program in nursing and much, much more. They've been adding employees. Go check out the 2- and 4-year degrees today at Bryant Stratton College on their website, bryantstratton.edu. And, of course, you can become a Bobcat today. And if you're in and around Central New York, hit them up on both campus locations in the city on James Street and in Liverpool. Bryant and Stratton College is a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. The Houston Astros, look, I read a great piece by Kevin Kernan in Ball 9 recently about doubles. Well, it was inserted in there. It was part of it, part of the piece, part of slamming analytics and all the rest. But inside this piece talked a lot about doubles. And teams that are hitting doubles, you score more and you're more balanced. You're just naturally that way because you're hitting the ball in the gap. You're not necessarily pulling and trying to hit the ball over the shift into the moon. You're putting it in the gaps. You're putting it in play. Things of that nature. You're putting good swings on the ball. You're making contact. And Houston's a good doubles team. And Houston on Sunday, they came all the way back from 7-2 to beat the Yankees. Aaron Boone, for some reason, would not take Chad Green out of the game. You could see he didn't have anything. And that's what Chad Green is. Chad Green either goes in, he gives you 2 innings of shutout ball with 4 strikeouts, or he gets lit up like a Christmas tree. And boy, oh boy, Aaron Boone, what an embarrassment. You're up 7-2. You just dominated 2 games against Houston. You got to win that 3rd game. You got to hang on. You got to go into the All-Star break with that sweep, and the Yankees lose. And, of course, Jose Altuve, of all people, gets the walk-off home run. But Houston's a strong team. The Valdez and McCullers and company in the rotation, they always seem to find a pitcher. Zach Greinke's there building his Hall of Fame resume. And I expect Houston to win that division. Oakland, they've tailed off the last month and a half. Seattle, 5 games over 500. They've actually been playing better than I thought. I root for them a little bit because of Tom Murphy, who was a catcher there, who went to my high school. The Angels, again, right around that 500 mark, and Mike Trout, I guess will be back soon, sometime within the next month. And then Texas is deplorable, 20 games under 500. The other team, by the way, besides the Milwaukee Brewers, I wanted to discuss in terms of running away with the division, Chicago White Sox, because the AL Central is deplorable. Kansas City's terrible, Minnesota's terrible, Detroit's terrible, and Cleveland, they've had their share of injuries. I don't know how they've even gotten to the point where they're 3 games over 500, but it's still only good for 8 games back of Chicago. I just can't see anybody coming close to the White Sox here until the end. And I really like the White Sox lineup too. They've been pitching fairly well, but their lineup is one of the best in the game. Um, I really like it. I mean, they do a really really nice job in terms of you know uh, putting the ball in play with runners in scoring position. They have the ability to hit home runs and kill you there. Jose Abreu year in year out just continues to get it done. Tim Anderson at shortstop, what a great leadoff guy he's been. They've got pieces, man. They've got some big pieces. They play defense, they run, and it's no secret, right? It's no secret. Yohan Moncada is having a decent year. They had to send down Yerme Mercedes down to the minor leagues, obviously, but it's no secret. It's no secret. You look around baseball, who's leading the division, who's winning, who's doing. Who's 8 games up? What team looks the best? What team plays the best? It's teams like the White Sox and the Astros and the Brewers and the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, and in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox, because they're putting the ball in play. They're hitting for average and power. They're not allowing analytics to just override everything, and then they're complementing it with, of course, a really good rotation and a bullpen that hangs in because of that rotation. And they play good defense. And it's baseball 101. It's a blend. It's versatility. Again, I'm all right with analytics. I'm not okay with analytics dominating the game. Alex Cora is back in Boston, and look at the way they're playing right now. Bogart's tearing the ball, tearing the cover off the ball. Devers has been great. Martinez has been great. Vasquez at times. They've had some players there. Alex Verdugo. They've got 4 or 5 guys who are mashing, and then all the other things I talked about are falling into place. Tampa Bay, a game and a half out of first place. They're hanging around. This is what they do. Actually, they're not even hanging around. I mean, they're 16 games up over 500. I expect the Rays to make the playoffs because that's what they do. They figure out a way. They find pitchers. I don't know where they find them. I don't know where the Astros find them. I don't know where these teams find these arms, but they do. And Tampa Bay always seems to get that clutch hit, whether it's Rosarina, it's Brandon Lau, it's Choi, who knows. Toronto's easily, for me, the most fun team to watch because I love watching Bichette, Biggio, Gurriel, Vladdy. I love watching that lineup. The Yankees are deplorable, 3 games over 500. Don't trust them whatsoever. If it wasn't for the Garrett Cole gem in Game 2 against Houston, they probably lose 2 or 3 in that series. And, we're feeling not great about them to begin with, but man alive. I mean, that's just not a good baseball team. And I almost, as a Yankee fan, wish they just wouldn't win 2 games like that against Houston because I'm so sick and tired of, getting kind of brought back in just enough to be like, oh, I'm looking forward to the game today. Maybe they'll win again. Maybe they're turning the corner. When I know they're not. I know they're not in reality, but there's always that thought, right? There's always that one little thought that they are. I'm so sick and tired of watching Brett Gardner. I'm so tired of watching Giancarlo Stanton. I'm so sick and tired of watching these guys. And, in the rotation, I trust no one besides Garrett Cole, that hasn't changed since the beginning of the year. And the bullpen right now is dinged up in every which way because they've been taxed. You got a COVID tracing, you got this, you got that. Chapman's a mess. Loaizaga going to get burned out here. They're a mess. And even if they win a playoff spot, they will get destroyed in the postseason because they're built the wrong way. Then you have the Orioles, by the way, minus 138 run differential. I'll just leave that there. EML Sports Platter brought to you by Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning today with Brian. Go ahead and visit advisors.massmutual.com. Get your financial future set up today with Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual New York State. On LinkedIn, on Facebook, Brian really opened our eyes to a lot of new things, and super happy to be working with Brian on our financial future here in our household. Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual New York State. He is the official financial advisor of the ML Sports Platter. Little crossover episode here. Scott Pitoniak, my good buddy, the best-selling author, storyteller, insider, and reporter on all things sports, especially the Buffalo Bills for the last several decades. RBJ.net for more. Rochester Business Journal columnist, and on Twitter at Scott Pitoniak. He joined me on Bills Brawl to chat a little bit about the Bills Stadium, talk recently, the new stadium in Orchard Park. Could there be still a situation where they could build it downtown? Josh Allen's contract situation and what boxes the Bills want to check during training camp. Here is that interview.
You're listening to a Brawl Network production. This is a podcast for the best fans in the NFL.
Are you in the Mafia?
Am I in the what?
It's time for a Bills Brawl podcast.
Second down and 7. Kelly with the time. Touchdown! Bill Brawl.
Allen. Deep shot. Touchdown! On the line to Stephon Diggs.
And Thurman breaking tackles at the 22. Inside the 10. Touchdown Buffalo.
Another episode of the Bills Brawl. I'm your host, Mike Lindsley, at Bills Brawl, at Mike L Sports on Twitter. We bring him in, the longtime Buffalo Bills insider columnist. He is now with the Rochester Business Journal, a best-selling author, on Twitter, at Scott Pitoniak. My good pal, Scott, joins us to talk some Bills camp expectations, the new stadium talk, and more. Scott, thank you so much, buddy. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. Always fun.
Let's get into the Bills Stadium, news as of recent days here and weeks, where it looks like they're going to build right on the grounds in and around Orchard Park. They've already got, the facilities and the practice area sort of built in there for training camps for years to come. We know it's out there again this year for a couple of reasons, that being one, and obviously, we're kind of getting out of Corona. Do you like the fact that it might be in Orchard Park, and do you, as a follow-up, see any reason that it wouldn't be in Orchard Park in the near future?
Well, look at I love the stadium itself. I always thought it was one of the best places to watch a football game in the NFL, and I've been to the majority of them. So from that standpoint, from the average fan, it doesn't have the bells and whistles that the Jerry Joneses and Robert Krafts of the world want and demand. I get all that. And, from a selfish standpoint, I always thought the location I didn't like from the start. I mean, there had been talk about building the original stadium in Lancaster, New York, which would have made it a half hour closer to fans from Rochester, which is the secondary market, and even Syracuse, it would cut off a half hour off that. So, it would have been better, and it would have been right off the thruway. The access roads would have been so much easier. That said, part of me, nostalgic-wise, I'm glad that, the consideration is for Orchard Park. But I should point out, Mike, the more I look into this and the more I think about this, I'm still not sure that it's a lock that it's going to be in Orchard Park. I know those were the original reports, but I find it kind of interesting that there has been no comments from pretty much anyone other than the county executive, Mark Poloncarz of Erie County. So I don't know if this is a done deal yet, or if this is actually like some initial salvos, like as part of this whole negotiating game that goes on whenever there's a lease extension or stadium improvements or a brand new stadium being built, which obviously hasn't happened in these parts in almost half a century and stuff. So it sounds like that is where they would be leaning toward, because it would be the least expensive. And when I say least expensive, we're still talking north of $1 billion, and people are going to pay one way or another. There's still, I guess, an outside chance that maybe the powers that be in Buffalo still push for a downtown stadium. I think we've got to be careful here that those were the initial reports, and we haven't heard from very many of the parties since, and going downtown would be much more expensive, and it also would change the dynamic. The Bills are known for tailgating and having the spaces out there in Orchard Park to do it and do it, big time. You're not going to have that same situation in the city. It's going to be more cramped. You're going to have more shuttling in from, different parking lots that are far away from, where the stadium would be built and so forth. So I guess I would just take a wait and see attitude right now, because I don't know if this is a done deal. These are just kind of the, early salvos being fired here. And the other thing, that I pointed out in my column when this news first broke is that I just don't see, Mike, anyway, how are you going to, you're not going to do this playing games in Toronto, or even more ludicrous, playing games in Happy Valley, Penn State. That stuff's not going to happen. I can't see the Bills playing even a minimum of 2 seasons on the road, so that, this can be built in Orchard Park. And also, the more I think about the campus setting that they have there in Orchard Park, if you're not going to build this on the original footprint, where are you going to do this, Mike? Are you going to put it the parking lots just to the other side, away from the side where there's the airplane hangar practice facility and stuff? Are you going to build in that parking lot? I don't know. I got to see, before, I think that this is definitive.
One thing that I've always been concerned about is, putting a dent into the Bills Mafia experience. And you brought it up, the tailgating is one part, but also the wallet. I mean, nailing Bills Mafia that way. I mean, the average income, Lancaster, Hamburg, Tonawanda. I mean, there's a lot of money in all parts of cities and all the rest, and I get that. But Buffalo is a blue-collar town, and the average income is, I don't know what it is right now, but I can tell you this. Season tickets right now are super cheap, and I know a lot of people who are season ticket holders. They've been season ticket holders for that exact reason. They might move them and make some money. They might go to 4 or 5 games a year. They might go to all of them. They might just buy, they might sell them and then get others in another spot. But Scott, that's a big 1-2 punch there. That's a big 1-2 punch blow to Bills Mafia if they were to go downtown eventually, because of what you said. You put a dent in the tailgating and really the experience. But man, how many people are going to be able to drop 15, 18, 20 grand on season tickets?
Well, and the other thing, let's not forget, Mike, that even if this is built in Orchard Park, as the initial reports indicate, don't think that this is the prices of everything aren't going to go way up. Now, I think we all can agree that you are not going to charge for personal seat licenses in Buffalo, New York, and Western New York, right. The way that we saw happen, out in the San Francisco Bay Area for the 49ers new stadium, or in other places. Not going to happen here. Not going to work here. Now, my assumption is they're going to build a smaller stadium in terms of seating capacity, so that they can control prices, more for the market size and so forth. But I think what people need to understand is whether you go the cheapest route, which is retrofitting the existing stadium, which I'm all for if they wanted to do that. Whether you do that, or you go retractable roof $2 billion downtown waterfront stadium, you're going to pay regardless. Yep. And I'm not merely talking about we New York State taxpayers or Erie County taxpayers. I'm talking about ticket buyers, and your tickets are going to go up, way up. Your concessions are going to go way up. Yep. Your parking is going to go way up.
Oh, God, parking is going to go nuts. I mean, I remember going to a Patriots game, Bills-Patriots game years ago, and it was $40 to park, or $50, and there's only one way in, one way out. Foxborough, what a dump that place is. But, man, Buffalo, you're paying what? You can park in lawns now, $10, $15.
Sure.
No way.
Yeah, so, when you talk about, well, are people going to be able to afford that, if these prices, the ticket prices go up 25, 30, 40%, I mean, it could be that much to fund this stadium. And And oh, by the way, don't think that this is going to be clear sailing, that, the taxpayers are going to, and politicians are just going to cave in and say, like, yeah, no problem, to Terry and Kim Pagul, that, we'll go and we'll give you this, we'll build this stadium for you. I don't think so. This is a different world we're in case people forgot, after the pandemic and whatever. So it's, I think this is far from over, and I think we're just in the early stages of what's going on.
No doubt about it. What do you think the Bills, Scott Pitoniak, are trying to accomplish in the upcoming training camp? What do you think some of the boxes they're looking to check look like?
Well, excuse me. Well, one of the great things, I was looking at the whole situation of going into camp, and one of the great things, Mike, about this is that they're right up there right now where they need to be, and now it's just a case where, they're adding things and tweaking things here and there to try to take that next step to get over that hump that is, is the Kansas City Chiefs and stuff. And so they're in a great way. I mean, I can't remember. You probably have to go back to Marv and the glory years to find another time where they're going into their fourth consecutive training camp with the same head coach,
yep,
same quarterback, same offensive coordinator, same defensive coordinator. I mean, that's stability.
It's crazy.
And that's the stability of really, really good football teams. So that's good. So, so what you're doing here is you're going to look at certain areas that you'd like to strengthen. And I think the other thing is you've got an abundance of competition at certain positions, wide receiver, offensive line. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing to have. So, as far as specifics, as far as players or positions and stuff, I'm intrigued with with what might happen at running back. And I'm glad that the Bills didn't use their first pick on a running back, because for everybody who's complaining about they need well, they did score a franchise record number of points with the running backs they had, and you would have to think that these guys, this unit is going to be better on experience alone. Singletary, I guess people were raving about how great a shape he came back in. So is this his chance? And it's probably going to be a multiple a committee thing anyways there, at that position. So I'm interested to see, if Zach Moss coming back, from an injury, mm-hmm, if he's going to be the guy, he's a more physical, punishing runner. Where does Matt Breida, fit into this scheme? So I'm interested. I'm intrigued by that. The other thing, I talked about all this talent at wide receiver, and one of these intriguing and maybe the newsiest story of the offseason personnel-wise is what is going to happen with Cole Beasley.
Right.
Given his pronouncements about his rights being taken away, and that the Players Association is a joke, and the whole vaccination issue. Is he going to quit? Is he going to get beaten out? I mean, for Sean McDermott to come out publicly about the issue, really, I think spoke legions, because he doesn't say anything public. He knows what he's doing every time he speaks to the press, and usually he masters what many really good coaches do in saying nothing, right? The art of saying nothing, and certainly not publicly criticizing, or even slightly indicating that he's criticizing publicly one of his players. So I don't, I wonder how that is going to play out. But as good a slot receiver as Beasley was, and he certainly is, among the best in the league by any measurements you want to do as far as that position. I do think they've got enough players that at that position that can fill that role. And and as it stands, they play so many 4 wide receiver sets anyway. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, you know that regardless, Beasley's going to continue to be asked about it. And is this going to be, is this going to be an ongoing distraction, so to speak? I'm also interested to see, with the offensive line, Cody Ford to me is the one, it's put up or shut up time for him. Is he gonna finally play, up to the level that a high draft pick should be playing, in his third year, I think, in the league, or is he going to get beaten out, which is a distinct possibility as well. So, there, and then I think defensively, what's most intriguing to me, Mike, is just is the edge rushers. Jerry Hughes is not getting any younger, and so it's really incumbent upon the young guys, and that's not just that's just not the rookies like Rousseau, who I still think is more of a project and will be used in spot situations in obvious rush downs or whatever, and but Boogie Basham may be a guy that. Of all the rookies, may have an opportunity to make an impact right away or play right away. But the ones I'm looking at more specifically, Ed Oliver, whom we're told by the coaching staff and Brandon Bean that he's had a better performance than you actually know. But I really think that. A guy who's chosen that highly has to be more of an impact maker. He's got to have more, game-changing type plays, and maybe with Star Latulele back, to clog up some of the area and stuff, and free up people like Oliver that maybe he's going to come through, and then we'll see also. I think with AJ Epineza, it's time for him in the second year. He did play better, Mike, as the season went on. And supposedly he's another guy who's got his weight where they want him to have his weight and his conditioning where they want him to be. I mean, he might have gotten a little light last year early on, and that didn't help him. So those are several areas that I'm looking at, going into this training camp.
Let's hit on two more things here, Scott, before I let you run. Again, Scott Pitoniak with us, talking some Bills at Scott Pitoniak on Twitter, the longtime insider and reporter covering the Buffalo Bills. And, of course, you can get his work at the Rochester Business Journal website at rbj.net. I'm concerned as far as, I'm not concerned. I'm curious to how the Bills handle these expectations, number one. And number two, Josh Allen, coming off of that year, not only expectations, but it's different this year. The atmosphere is going to be what it was before Corona. This team last year had a ton of success home and away, 13 wins. Nobody saw it coming. But, you did it in empty stadiums. You could hear everything. You're not going to be able to hear everything anymore, especially on the road. What about those two things? Can they handle these expectations, and can Josh Allen handle that atmosphere that we've seen in the past? And I know it wasn't last year. He had a great year, but we did see, and he's still kind of prone to, hero ball.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great question. And the expectation question is always a great one, particularly after you've experienced success for the first time. It is real great success here. There's no question. He played, had an MVP caliber type season last year, and this team did what we had hoped it would. In that it had reached all the way to the AFC Championship game. They needed to win a playoff game. Get a home playoff game, win the division. They did all those things. They checked all those boxes. But now, as you say, now, they're not sneaking up on anybody. And there's going to be a greater, hotter spotlight that's going to be analyzing, Josh as we go through here. I'm confident that he's going to continue to progress. I don't think he's going to necessarily have the numbers he had last year, and maybe that and that isn't necessarily a reflection that he's regressed or whatever. But it is going to be interesting to see how he handles that. And and you mentioned about you're going to be going into hostile places that are truly hostile. It's going to be more than just my bed was a little lumpy in the hotel or whatever the night before the game. There's going to be people screaming at you, and they're going to make it difficult to communicate plays and so forth. So it is going to be interesting to see how this high-powered, high-octane offense led by Josh handles that situation. But the expectation level never been higher. Bills fans always whine about they don't get the respect. They don't get the national respect, which to me was always a stupid thing. Like, what do you care? If your team is doing the job on the field, who cares if we're not being respected nationally or whatever? That doesn't matter. But so now you're getting it, and you've got national commentators and analysts and so forth who say like, yeah, Super Bowl, yeah, long shot could win the Super Bowl, blah 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 blah. It's expectations that you haven't had for a quarter century. How are you going to handle it? Now again, I'm confident in Josh. I think he's an incredibly hard worker, focused. I don't think like he had some off season where an Aaron Rodgers off season, or he's going to go host Jeopardy and play all these golf tournaments and play all these games as far as am I coming back or not, so I think he's going to be focused. I think of greater concern, Mike, it's always the thing that we can never predict or account for, and that is injury. He's got to stay healthy. Again, I love the fact that Brandon Beane went out and got Mitchell Trubisky as a stopgap, but we know that Mitchell Trubisky's not going to win the Super Bowl for you. He can keep the ship going if need be. If there's a short stretch where Josh is out or something like that. But that's the thing I always worry about. And I think going back to your point about hero ball, Mike, is that one of the other bad aspects of hero ball is not just forcing the issue and maybe forcing an interception, but Josh has a tendency still, to make himself quite vulnerable to bad hits, to injurious hits. And that's concerning to me because, again, it all flows from 17. He's the reason why we're talking about this team as a Super Bowl contender. So he's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay focused. And I think he'll be okay mentally otherwise. I think he'll handle it okay. I really don't see that was some sort of fluke or there's going to be major regression. I would be shocked if that happens.
Okay, final thing, Allen contract. Are you surprised it hasn't gotten done yet?
Yes and no. I think that I guess his people could look at it from the aspect like, look at the cap is going up next year. So I could like wait it out and get even more money or whatever. Mm-hmm. Of course, you ask yourself like, how much is too much after a while? Like, how much do you really need? And I don't think he's one of those ones. But I mean, he could be, in position to get the highest contract in NFL history. He could surpass Mahomes, maybe not in terms of length or whatever, but yearly salary or whatever. So he's playing it that way, and I really don't believe that Brandon Beane and McDermott are like waiting out to see like if last year was a fluke or not. I think they're all in as they should be, but they've got to look long term too, and not get themselves into positions that other teams have gotten themselves into with onerous long-term contracts in which they can no longer keep the people around the star quarterback to enable him to excel. So I'm not worried about it. It's going to get done. He wants to stay. They definitely want him. We'll see where it goes. And Mike, it can be structured in so many different ways. Gosh. How can you figure out? It's like a Rubik's Cube sometimes you try to, but they can structure it and they can restructure it. Tom Brady did it a million times over. And probably in his case, he took under market value for 20 years in New England there and to help his team.
But Scott, by the way, that Rubik's Cube can be like, you turn it one way, you're like, does that fit? That says 31 million. Turn it to this, 32.5 million. 33 million. And then the years are on the other side, and you kind of have to mix it in,
Right, and guaranteed, like, what am I getting up front?
Yeah.
How am I going to help them out cap-wise and help them help myself out? Like, you want to keep these guys that you're throwing the ball to? Oh, you want to keep these guys who are protecting you or whatever.
Well, it takes money.
Yeah, and so you're part of that equation, and we'd like to have you be part of it and see how you are part of it. And yet, hey, I want my money, and we know that quarterbacks rule. It's kind of like they've taken a page from the NBA stars, and that, hey, we got the power now, and we want the money. Show us the money. So, but again, I really don't have any concerns that this is all going to get worked out in a way that both parties are happy about. But again, there's talk that that Josh's people don't want necessarily as long a term contract as like Mahomes did, with the decade-long extension, whatever, that he wants something shorter. And if you do that, that does then kind of make it more difficult to fudge and play around with the numbers to help you out with the cap space.
Rochester Business Journal, rbj.net. Check out his pieces. Scott Pitoniak at scottpitoniak.com, at Scott Pitoniak on Twitter, I should say, and scottpitoniak.com. Make sure you visit Amazon and your local bookstores to pick up all of his books as well. The longtime Bills reporter and insider and best-selling author and storyteller. Scott, thank you as always, my friend. We'll talk soon. Hopefully I can see you this summer.
Hey, I hope so too, Mike. Thanks so much.